Hello, Cosmic Witches. Welcome back to the Divine Gossip Girls with Maggie, Carly, and Sophie. I'm so excited to talk about today's topic because it's something that I use all the time, and I just want to kind of pick the girls' brains about what their stories are. And we'd love to hear your stories as well. We're going to be talking about spiritual failsafes. Basically, spiritual failsafes are just these things that allow you to root yourself into the reality that is your spiritual experience, into believing your spiritual experience. I think so many of us can start to question at whatever point you are in your spiritual journey. There are these questions of, am I losing it? Am I crazy to believe all of these things? Should I believe in this higher power? Should I believe that these magic rocks will affect my mood and my energy? Am I just losing my marbles, or are these real things? And even when you're so versed and so deep into your spiritual journey, I think you can still feel these things. Sometimes we're human, these doubts creep up. So I just wanted to talk to the girls today about what they use to really root themselves into their spirituality, to remind themselves that this is real, that it can't just be a coincidence. This is too hard to explain. So I thought we'd just have a fun little story time today about some moments when that happened, that we use, that we tap into, and just talk about spiritual fail safes. And we'd love to hear yours as well, but let's just jump into them. Hey, Cosmic Witches! Divine Gossip Girls here, your one and only source into the spiritual happenings of the cosmos.
Ever wonder what this month's energy will have in store for you? What the planets and stars are even up to? Or if the universe can just help you catch a break already?
Well, lucky you, because we have all the spiritual secrets to tell. Get ready to sip on your weekly dose of divine tea.
All right, so I was really thinking about this because I use them all the time. And I think I've recently gone through like a lower period, or maybe a time where I had a little bit more doubt. I was kind of explaining this, I think, to you, Sophie, about how because spirituality is my job, and when I do spiritual things, even for myself, I tend to document them for content, for Instagram. Like I'll, be journaling and I feel like, oh, I should put this on my stories. That sometimes I think I need to come up with some stricter boundaries, which is a whole other topic. But sometimes I feel this pressure of, when I'm doing something spiritual, I should be documenting it because it's good content. And then therefore I don't feel as connected to my spiritual stuff, or I feel this pressure around it and it doesn't feel like it's impacting me as much and helping me as much. And then I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And so sometimes when I get into these places, I start to question whether this really works. I start to question whether I really am spiritual. I start to question the validity of everything I do, which I think is very natural. And I think we all go into spirals like this sometimes. But I like to have these things in my back pocket of what can't be explained, and times where I really deeply felt this work, or I really deeply felt the spirituality. So one of them for me was, I had this crystal. It was this palm stone crystal, and it's called lepidolite, or some people say lepidolite, whichever way, tomato, tomato. But lepidolite is a crystal that helps with anxiety and depression. It really helps with your mental health. It actually has minerals in it that they use in antidepressants and anxiety medications. So it's
Maggie,
really,
I
really
literally
helpful.
just got that crystal. Like, I can't
Yeah,
believe you're saying that. I
I
literally
need to
just
get
got
it.
it. Like
I want to get it.
3 days ago. Sorry, keep
it's
going.
no, it's amazing. Everyone should have it. Sophie, get it.
I'm gonna get
Carly,
it.
go love on it. It's amazing. It's this like purple, sparkly sort of crystal. It's amazing. And I had this palm stone. This is back when I worked at the crystal shop, back when I was in university. And I had it in my coat pocket. I kept it in my coat pocket that I would wear a lot because I like to hold on to it because I was going through a really anxious time. So I had it to try and really ease my anxiety. I'd been using it a lot and I wasn't really sure. I'm like, how much is this working? But I had been feeling better. And sometimes you think, is it just a placebo effect, or is it this crystal? But I was feeling a lot better. And I had it in my coat pocket. And then I started feeling worse again. And I was being really, really, really anxious. And what I didn't realize was that I had left my coat at my partner Joel's house, and we weren't living together at the time. This is when we first started really dating, but I had left it at his house. And then I went back to his house a week later and I put it on and I started wearing it again, but I hadn't put my hand in the pocket with the crystal. And all of a sudden I started to feel better again. And I was going, oh my gosh, so weird. I feel so much better. And then later that day, I put my hand in my pocket and I found my crystal. And I thought, no way, literally just this crystal being in my pocket helped this anxiety that I've been feeling for a week. And I didn't even realize that it was gone or that it had come back. But now that I have it and I realize I'm feeling better today, I was putting together those puzzle pieces. And that's one that I always use as my touchstone, being like, you didn't even realize that the crystal had left and come back. But at the moments that it did, it affected you the way it's supposed to.
Yeah.
And that one's always really interesting to me.
I think for me, I've got two. I have two. And I love that. And I'm definitely going to be buying that crystal. But for me, the first one is, and everyone who knows me will know that my universal sign is a rainbow. And it is just not a coincidence that whenever I ask for a sign, I see an abundance of rainbows. And that always brings me back to like, this is real, you know, like this is real. And something else is that I have mentioned in a other podcast episode, but I've always felt deeply connected to my papa, and he passed away when I was just 4 years old. So the day after I turned 4 years old, he had like tragic heart attack, and died. But for some reason, I've always felt as if like we would be best friends, that he would just be my like favorite person in the entire world. And I've always had that deep connection with him, but just never questioned it, but just always had that there, as if he was with me, as if he was here, but he wasn't. And I think Maggie and I were doing a past life regression, or we were doing something. Even Carly as well. Both Carly and Maggie have seen my papa in either past life regressions or in a Reiki session, and he is one of my spirit guides. And that always reminds me of how real that is, because before I even tapped into spirituality, before I even knew all this really, really existed, or what the depth of it all was, I had that connection. I had always had that connection with him. So I think that's one for me that always brings me back to it. And I would always have like a photo, and you can't show you, but like I have a like photo with me and my papa on my desk. And
I think he came through in the past life regression before I even really knew how big of a, not a role he played in your life, but in your heart. Like I hadn't even really heard about your papa. I think I said like, do you have a grandfather that has passed?
I think
And he
that's
was the
literally
first
what
one
I
through.
said. I was like,
Yeah.
there was like this red, it was like a red robin or something, or cardinal that kept coming through. And I was like, do you have like a male, someone close in your life that's passed through? Like all these birds kept coming through.
And I said he leaves feathers.
So crazy.
Yeah.
I love it. So that's one that always comes back to me, because I also have another granddad, who's my dad's dad, and he died when I was in like primary school, when I was like 11, 12. And I don't have that deep connection, so I know that there's something there, I know that there is that deeper connection, that spiritual connection with him. And yeah, that always brings me back. My rainbows always bring back, and there's just no making up whenever I ask for like that sign. Like I always see one, and even just like when I do see one without a sign, my full body and soul like
You just know.
instantly just and that's just like that, just like it's just gratification for me that it's real. Like it has to be real.
I don't think I've ever met anyone that's seen more rainbows than Sophie. Like the amount of rainbows that Sophie sees is actually like very unnatural. Like it has to be some sort of spiritual like synchronicity, because it's like I see them maybe once. No, okay, maybe like 3 or 4 times a year. Also, there's like not as much rain here, but you see them like multiple times a week. Like this is not
Sometimes multiple times a day. When I visited Sophie in Scotland, I think we saw a rainbow of some sort. Like whether it's she sees real rainbows or like rainbow prints or rainbow stickers on cars. We saw one minimum once a day. I would even say probably at least twice a day. We saw
Yeah.
so many rainbows, and sometimes it wasn't even, cursing them. I'd be like, Soph, look, a rainbow. We saw so many, and I was blown away.
Yeah,
Literally. Maybe
so
I need
many.
to really, because I see them all the time, I'm like, oh my God, a rainbow, rainbow, that I forget that I'm like, this is a big deal. Like, this isn't normal, Sophie. Like, this isn't
Hmm.
normal to see that many rainbows. Like, will you please just, because I think sometimes, like, people who aren't as tapped into their spirituality are just like, they don't really understand. They're like, oh, a rainbow or something like that. But for me, I'm like that is like the universe and my
Confirmation,
guide like
support.
speaking to me and being like, hi, I am with you. Like I seen one on Sunday and I had been going through like a lot of like anxiety over the weekend and took myself to like a yoga and breathwork and cold water dipping class. And when I came back, I went to the shops and like walked out the shops and there was just this massive rainbow. Like, when you can see half of it or you can't
Hmm.
see all of it, like you could see like the full fucking thing. And I gasp, even though I see them all the time. I'm like,
This one's
I'm
different.
challenging Sophie, and I am going to remind her of this when I edit this episode, and you're going to do it for when this episode comes out. I want you to speak to the universe and say, show me how supported I am. Show me as many rainbows as you can. And I want you to take a video of every single one and make it into a reel,
Oh
okay.
yeah. No, I want you to count them too.
like in a
I
week.
want to know. Yeah, I want to know
Mhm.
how many rainbows you see
And
because
just do
it's
like that counter. Put them all together. One,
Yeah, that
two,
was like when
three,
Maggie came and visited, the amount of angel numbers that we see on
everywhere.
YouTube, like
Mm,
so many.
So many
And I think
videos.
that's also that confirmation that it's real, like
Mhm.
it is real. And I think sometimes it's like when you actually open yourself up to it, that's when you see like everything. When you just, whatever you open yourself up to, you see more of. And because
yeah.
I remember like when I worked in my old job and I was just getting into like spirituality, and there was a girl that worked there who was quite into spirituality, and she was the one that kind of introduced me to angel numbers. I was like, I never see angel numbers. What the hell? And then ever since that conversation, I just started to
Everywhere.
like
Right,
see
because
them
energy
everywhere.
energy flows where intention goes. So if you start to
Exactly.
open yourself up, like of course you're going to see more because that's where your energy is now being
Right?
directed towards. Like whenever people are like, "Oh, like I don't ever see that." I'm like, "Well, have you ever opened yourself up to seeing it?" Or like cuz you and also like the universe, the way that it works is like you're a sovereign being, you practice free will. So you're obviously not going to be in communication with the universe if you're not connected, if you're closed off to it, if you haven't turned on your spiritual connection. So once you start to turn that on, the more synchronicities that you see around you, the more that divine things will flow on in, the more like Sophie, Maggie and I would have never connected had one like have we not connected to our spirituality, because this connection is very divine. And I've had like multiple and something too, like Meg, you're not alone. I've been noticing that as well. I'm like, every time that I have a spiritual download or a spiritual like insight, I'm like, how am I going to share this with people? I'm like, no, maybe I just need to do this for myself. Like,
Maybe
I
this is
don't need
for
to
me.
share. Yeah, maybe this one's for me. Like, I don't need to always be documenting this, but something as like a very spiritual being or like someone that is working a lot with spiritual kind of things, or if you're just someone that's starting to awaken more and you're feeling really airy fairy and not grounded and like, oh my god, is this real, what is not real, grounding is so fucking important. Like have a daily grounding practice, because you have to root to rise, and that has been such a theme of mine, is like root to rise every day. What is my rooting practice? And for me that's meditation. And honestly I think my like the thing that grounds me, that allows me to recognize that I'm not going crazy, is like morning meditation. It's just become like a thing that I have to do. Otherwise, I feel like I am going insane sometimes. Like, wow, there is a lot. I'm really up in this spiritual woo stuff. But if I ground and I'm deeply connected to my humanness, then I'm like, you know what? Here I am. I'm in this body. This is nature. This is the way. Like breath awareness always grounds me so that I can receive those downloads and not doubt them, so that I can be open to communicating with the universe. Because if I don't ground, I'm going to be trapped in the ego, because I'm going to be in fight or flight. I'm going to be in my conditioned belief. So I have to have a practice that grounds me so that I can connect spiritually and not doubt that. But I honestly, I'm trying to think of like the thing that I have that I just remember, because I feel like I've had a lot of spiritual experiences that are way too fucking weird that there's any way that could be like just made up. Like I think one of the ones that recently happened when I was traveling that was like just the most like I met this girl, she's from Amsterdam, and her and I must have had multiple past lives together. Our lives are way too intertwined. Whereas, like, yeah, we're living in different continents, but like her past life memories and my past life memories are the same. Like, I had dreams of her before I met her. Um, and then when I met her, I was like, I know it's you because I kept seeing the letter D before I met her. And then her name started with the letter D. And I kept seeing this girl with dark black hair, and I knew I was going to meet her on my travels. And then when I met her, it was like we couldn't stop conversation. And now it's like we're really close friends. We call for like 2 hours every week. And it's just like the things that happen in our lives are so intertwined that I'm like, there is no way that we could be making this up. Like we have the same dreams. Like one well, because like the time difference, when I'm sleeping she's awake. There was one time where I had a dream that her and I were like in a past life together, and the way I entered into the dream was through going through a picture that was a waterfall, and I entered into the dream and it was her and I being like exiled from a village because we were practicing like spiritual things, and like we were like disowned from the community. And so it was like 4 a.m. and I got up and I was like, oh my God, I need to text her. This was so vivid. I go to text her and I'm like, oh my God, like I just had this most vivid dream. Like it was definitely a past life of us together. And she was like, that's crazy because I just came out of meditation and I was sitting near this waterfall and that's how I entered into the meditation. And I was like, no way. So it's just a lot of these things that happen that I'm like, there's no way that I could be making this shit up. Like it is so there's so many synchronicities that start to appear. And if your ego is doubting them, just ground, and then you'll see that higher perspective and you're like, wow, it's all just super interconnected.
It goes past coincidence. It goes to this place where you're just like, there's no way for this to be explained other than the fact that it's just real, that it's just happening. And as you go down, like we've all shared just 1, 2 stories each today, but I have like a bank of them. This could be a fun series. Maybe we'll do it again sometime where we have these like uncanny stories, because I have so many of them that I have in my back pocket just to reassure myself, right? To remind myself that things can't be explained and to just explore that unknown. So I really just wanted to hear yours today, because they're always those stories that give you goosebumps. They're always those stories that fill your heart a little bit and fill your cup.
I think everyone should, if you're listening on Spotify, like reply in that little box below and tell us what yours is. Like we want to know. We want to know. And if you're not listening on Spotify, just come over
on
to Instagram or wherever you found us.
Tag us in a story or something. Let us know what yours is. I think we would all love to know, because those are those moments that you hear that you're just like, wow, the universe is so damn cool. The universe is so
Universe, you're so damn cool. We love you.
We're so interconnected. Look at this.
mind-blowing, beautiful moment. So this was really fun. Thanks for coming along with us on this little spiritual story episode. Hopefully we'll do some more like this soon. If you liked it, let us know. Leave us a review. Please, please, please. It helps the podcast so much. I would love to read the reviews. I'm sure we'll all just be like giggling and just so high vibe reading all of your reviews and giving it 5 stars. It means the world to us if you can. So we will see you next week. And that's all for today.
Bye.
Bye.